It wasn't the best year for third base, but I think there's hope. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Tuesday, October 28th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we are taking a closer look at third base, preseason ADP, what went right and wrong, who finished in the top 12, an early look at 2026 rankings. Peek behind the curtain, we are live streaming this very late at night. The plan was to go live after Game 3 of the World Series, but here we are. It is the 13th inning. It is 1 a.m. Eastern time.
It's like a regular season podcast.
You know, I was thinking the same exact thing. I don't think we could have put it off any longer, so here we are. If you're listening on demand, you already know what happened. Let's take a look at the state of third base. Chris, we will start with you. What are we thinking?
It's okay. It's the third strongest infield position. Shortstop obviously is better, and first base I think is better than third. I think third is better than second base, but like Lenyn Sosa and Zach McKinstry were top 12 players according to the Fangraphs player rater at third base. So it wasn't great. And I think in large part that was because there were a lot of injuries to guys who should have been top 12. But there's also not a ton of like really interesting youth at the position right now. I think that will change in 2026 when presumably J.J. Weatherholt is playing third base for the Cardinals, at least I hope. And maybe Kevin McGonigal is playing third base for the Tigers. Both of those could happen. But the state of prospects at third base, not very good right now. It's a tough position, I think, overall.
And we lost Rafael
Scott
Devers.
seems to think it's a lot worse than I do, too.
Yeah, I think third base is pretty awful. About as awful as I've ever seen it. There was that one year, I don't know, a few years ago, where we struggled to fill out. Even in head-to-head lineups with no corner infield spot, we struggled to get every team a decent third baseman. I don't think it's quite that bad, but it falls off pretty hard after 12, certainly after 15, for those leagues that do require a corner infielder. And there aren't any like true third base prospects on the way.
No.
The best name I could come up with is Jacob Reimer of the Mets, and it's not like he's a surefire top 100 guy. And I don't see what his path to playing time.
Is Cam Collier a third baseman anymore?
He is. I don't think he's close to debuting.
Yeah.
And actually, I think he shifted to first base. That's a Reds prospect. So no, it's possible J.J. Weatherholt or Kevin McGonigal could shift over there this year. I think more likely in Weatherholt's case, but they could wind up at second, or they could just stick it short. I think that's especially possible in McGonigal's case. So, I'm not counting on any help coming at third base. I think it is how it is, and there are some bounce back candidates potentially. Mark Vientos, Royce Lewis, Matt Shaw. I don't know if he technically meets the definition of bounce back, but he could take a step forward. But I got to tell you, I'm not bullish on any of them at this point. It's kind of a hope and a prayer. So I feel like third base is a position that you want to not necessarily fill early, because I'm not sure there are a ton of names worth spending an early pick on, but you want to be conscientious about it in 2026.
And for those who listen to the podcast, you will know that I am very rarely the optimist in any scenario here, but I guess painting the glass half full picture here is, if we get health out of some guys, I think the position can bounce back. You know, Austin Riley, Alex Bregman, Jordan Westburg, Matt Chapman, Max Muncy, Royce Lewis.
But those are like top 8 guys in my rankings.
Yeah.
I'm already ranking them as if they will bounce back.
Yeah.
To be fair, I haven't gone that deep into third base. I only really looked at the top 12 to 15. And it's asking for a lot. A lot of those guys have not been able to stay healthy. But
I think I feel I think I can go 14 deep where I feel okay about a starter at the position. Jorge Polanco is not third base eligible, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So then it's 14. after that, yeah, I think it, but there are, you mentioned Machado. I think Jordan Lawler, I still have a lot of hope for. Certainly, I don't think you can draft either of those guys as a starter. But, those two, maybe Caleb Durbin in a roto league. Jose Caballero has been like a surprisingly good fantasy option 2 years in a row, even though nobody really treats him like that. There are paths to this position not being bad, and I feel like that's more true of third base than second base. But it's not in a great spot. And if you don't take a first baseman in the first, or a third baseman in the first 3 or 4 rounds, which basically means if you don't get Jose Ramirez, Jazz Chisholm, Junior Caminero, Manny Machado, you're taking on a lot of risk.
What also hurts, if I could say real quick, Rafael Devers no
Yep.
longer eligible at third base beginning in 2026.
Mhm.
He will at least have eligibility first base. No, though not by much. Avoided the DH only tag barely there, Devers.
And then Jorge Polanco, Colson Montgomery, and Sal Stewart also losing third base eligibility.
Yep.
I don't know if there were any other
Those
big
are the
names.
biggest.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest.
Let's take a look back at preseason top 12 third base ADP. This is according to Fantasy Pros, which included Yahoo, CBS, NFBC, Fantrax, and RT Sports Drafts. Number 1, no surprise, it was Jose Ramirez, followed by Jazz Chisholm, Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, Manny Machado, Jordan Westberg, Mark Vientos, Junior Caminero, Alex Bregman, Jake Berger, Matt Chapman, and Royce Lewis. According to the Fangraphs player rater, 7 of those actually finished in the top 12. That's a 58% hit rate. Same amount as first base. It's actually one more than catcher and second base. So in terms of reliability, just drafting a top 12 third baseman and then finishing third base, it was an okay position. But yeah, not really on the higher end, I guess.
I mean, Berger finished 10th. Lewis finished 12th. Those were massive disappointments.
No. Those are
preseason.
drafted.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes
So
me
7
feel
of those 12 that I mentioned
Oh.
actually finished in the top 12, and we'll get to those top 12 a little bit later on. Biggest breakouts at the position, I mean, you know the deal.
Caminero! Caminero!
Junior Caminero for sure. He is at the top of the list with a bullet, with a hat tip to Maikel Garcia, who had a pretty nice season as well. We'll talk about those guys a little bit later on. The biggest bust at third base, I think based on where he was drafted, obviously, second, third round pick, Austin Riley. It was injury related. Non-injury related, probably Mark Vientos. He did miss a month with a hamstring injury, but even when he was healthy,
he was a disappointment before then.
he was a disappointment. And again, I read off preseason ADP. He was going ahead of Junior Caminero.
Yeah.
So if you did that was a major problem. Anything to add on the bust here, Austin Riley and Vientos?
I know Scott and I have talked about it a little bit, and in the past, it's probably been a couple of weeks at least since we talked about it. But Scott, I felt like you were more bullish on Austin Riley's bounce back potential. I'm not saying I'm out on it. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for 2024 because the underlying numbers were basically where they had been, and that's no longer as true. The strikeout rate moved in the wrong direction. The quality of contact got a little bit worse.
Still very good though, but it did for his standards. Got a little bit worse.
I think the overall profile is now one. It's just 2 disappointing seasons in a row. Although I think 2024.
Yeah, I don't really count 2024.
Yeah,
as the thing.
he had started to turn it around and then got hurt. 2025, there's really not very much to be optimistic about. And then he's going to be 29. So it's not that Austin Riley is so old that he can never be good again, but he's also not young enough that I think it makes a lot of sense to bet fully on a bounce back. I'm not bearing him in the rankings. He is currently 7th at third base for me, and I very easily could be 6th if Eugenio Suarez re-signs in Seattle, especially. I think if that happens, Austin Riley will be my 6th third baseman for sure.
Yeah.
But I am viewing him as more like a high 20s, low 30s homer guy, maybe, than a high 30s homer guy, and probably not a helpful source of batting average anymore. it's within the realm of possibility. It's within the range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the likeliest scenario for Austin Riley has shifted down in the last couple of years.
Well, I think that's fine to rank him that way. I have him 5th at third base.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying 7th, maybe 6th. So I have him ranked a little higher within the position, but it's
probably Bregman.
It's not drafting. It's not the 5th third baseman who you're drafting in the 2nd and 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 5th third baseman who you're drafting in the 5th, maybe the 4th round. And so your expectations for him is how he's going to be drafted, I expect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a chance he could pay back that pick and more, because yes, some of the underlying numbers, the strikeout rate especially, creeped up in 2025. But 2024, I think, was just basically an early season slump.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had the broken hamate bone at the end of the season. And so the numbers didn't fully correct. And so I'm not counting that as part of a trend for Riley. And, things were a little off in 2025, sure, but we would normally give a player in his prime who has had a very consistent track record of MVP caliber production, we'd normally give him a pass for a season where the data's a little off. And so I think it's fair to do that for Riley. And again, you don't have to do it in drafts. I just think mentally it's fair to do that.
And again, I think it all comes down to the price for Austin Riley. How much of a discount do we get year over year? I saw a way too early NFBC draft board earlier today that I have pulled up. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean anything because things can change a ton, even by the time we get to January, February. But in this draft, he went pick 88, which seems like an amazing discount on Austin Riley if he stays anywhere close to that throughout draft season. So
I want the link to that, actually.
I will,
because I just started. I finished my position by position rankings now, and I've started doing combining them, throwing them all together in a top 300. I get to the end of round 3, so pick 36 or so, and it's like there are about 50 players that you could rank in any order here.
I kind of want you to do your own rankings and then kind of use the screenshot as like a fact check afterwards.
Yeah, that's basically just kind of a sanity, and it's a sample of one draft, so it would be ridiculous to put a ton of stock into it. But just
we will be doing our first mock draft this week.
Yes, we will.
So we'll have a little bit of our own to talk about.
Yeah, and you and I, Chris, are going to First Pitch Arizona next week. I'm already signed up for one of their way too early drafts.
I got to get in the draft champions at least.
I'm crazy. I always like to, it's kind of a tradition whenever I've gone out there to do a way too early draft, just to kind of dip my feet and, see the way things are trending early on. I'm only up to my third base research so far, so I'm way behind. I'm probably going to need Scott's rankings or something for that draft. But we'll talk about that probably in a couple of weeks from now and see what's going on with early drafting. Big thanks to those watching live. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to Chris's newsletter if you haven't done that. CBSSports.com/newsletters. If you're watching on YouTube, scan that QR code. That will bring you right to the website where you could sign up for free. Let's take that break. We'll be back right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's quickly run through some news, some World Series updates. They are on to the 14th inning, still tied in that one. The series is 1-1. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, by the way, back-to-back complete games in the playoffs. Basically, whether he deserves it or not, I think kind of cementing himself as a top 5 pitcher drafted. He might be.
He's going to be number 4.
Yeah, I
he's
think
going to be the consensus. Yeah,
people are going to have this playoff run in the back of their minds, and obviously he was amazing, and I think he's worthy of that draft spot anyway. But yeah,
I'm still keeping Sale for
Tuesday's newsletter is going to be
Yamamoto even before this postseason.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Chris.
Tuesday's newsletter is going to be kind of making the case for and against 10 different pitchers as the number 4. And then I've got like
10?
a couple of others. Yeah, I just wanted to, because like,
I'm surprised you came up with that many.
I think you can make a case for Cole Reagans as the number 4 SP. I don't think you should make that case, but like talent, I think he might be the 4th best pitcher in baseball right now.
But I'm just wondering who like 9 and 10 of the 10 are.
Like Max Fried, I don't really believe that one.
I'm counting him too. That's fine. We don't have to go over all the pitchers here. Read the newsletter.
Either way.
Yeah.
With Yamamoto, I mostly just think he's the floor play. Like he's the safe option at number 4. But I think if you put his best case scenario up against Cole Reagans, both of them stay healthy next year, both of them pitch to the top of their ability, Cole Reagans is better, I think, for fantasy.
You could probably say that about Hunter Green as well.
Hunter Green, I think you could, even like Hunter Brown probably has a little more strikeout upside.
He feels very similar to me.
Yeah, well, it's more, to put it a different way. Hunter Brown probably has like 20 to 25 more innings in his best case scenario than Yamamoto. That's the biggest thing from keeping me from ranking Yamamoto is just he's going to throw like 175 innings, and that's probably about the ceiling. And I think they're going to be awesome 175 innings. I think he's going to be great, and he probably is a better bet to get to 175 innings than Hunter Green. It's just if everything goes right, Hunter Green might strike out 60 more batters than Yamamoto. So there are more. I have a hard time seeing Yoshinobu Yamamoto as the number 1 pitcher in fantasy. I have a hard time seeing him finish much worse than like 10th if he stays healthy too.
Sure.
We got a bunch of Brewers updates from their end of season presser. William Contreras will visit a hand specialist this week to determine whether he needs surgery to repair that fractured left middle finger. Logan Henderson has been deemed fully healthy. He went on the IL in early August with a flexor strain in his right elbow. Assuming he's good to go for opening day, feels like Henderson will be a pretty popular sleeper for next season. And Caleb Durbin will undergo arthroscopic elbow surgery later this week, but is expected to be fully recovered by spring training. Is there trouble in Philadelphia?
I just wanted to say, by the way, my top 40 starting pitchers are up on the website with a little blurb for each of them if you want to see how those guys come out for me.
I was perusing those earlier today, and I noticed you have Max Fried very high. We'll see if the consensus agrees or not. Let's get into I mentioned there could be trouble in Philadelphia. Bryce Harper was confused and upset by trade speculation following recent comments from President Dave Dombrowski. Chris and I mentioned this last week. I mean, those comments Dombrowski made, it seemed weird at the time. I don't know if he was trying to, inspire, light a fire under Bryce Harper, whatever. I mean, Harper is a fiery dude. It's just, why even go there, I guess. But, he's tried to walk it back. I mean, it's probably nothing. And I'm more than certain Bryce Harper will still be in Philadelphia. But, there's been some trade speculation, yada, yada. I don't think he's going anywhere. Some optimistic news in Philadelphia. Dave Dombrowski said he recently saw Zach Wheeler and believes Wheeler has a chance to be ready by opening day. Wheeler had surgery in late September, and that carried a 6 to 8 month recovery window, which brings us up to anywhere from April through June.
Yeah.
I guess there is a chance. It's probably a very slight chance.
Yeah. So when I published that top 40, probably the pitcher I was most asked about was Zach Wheeler. Like, where's Zach Wheeler? Because he wasn't in the top 40.
That's a great question. Where is Zach Wheeler?
He's 47th, if you want to know. Subject to change, of course. Very subject to change. Because if, we start seeing him pitch in spring training and looking like Zach Wheeler, then he probably moves up 20, 25 spots from there. But it's a big difference if he's back for opening day or missing a quarter to 1/3 of the season. Yeah. And I will say I've become a little more when he initially suffered this injury and he's having thoracic outlet syndrome. I mean, the history of pitchers having thoracic outlet syndrome surgery isn't great. Like Matt Harvey, that's the surgery that ruined Matt Harvey's career.
John Lackey and Josh Beckett both had it at the end of their careers. Yeah.
And I don't know about every single instance, but I know for Harvey and I know typically thoracic outlet syndrome addresses a nerve issue. But in Wheeler's case, it's addressing a vein issue, and that's considered to have better outcomes, even though I don't think it's as common, but it's thought to have better outcomes.
The nerve version, it's the same surgery. It's removing I think it's the uppermost rib to relieve pressure. It's usually to relieve pressure on a nerve that causes like tingling and numbness in your fingers. In Wheeler's case, and there was one other example that I can't remember. There have been other examples of a vein version of it. It's the same type of surgery, but it might be less of a concern. Wheeler should be the number 4 SP. It's such a bummer that this injury happened. It should be the big 4, and he's not there. You can't expect anything like that. I put him in the what about portion of tomorrow's newsletter, but I have him 42 right now. I think maybe you could push him to 24 if he looks like himself in spring, but it's also even if he comes out and looks good in spring, that doesn't mean he's going to hold up, and it doesn't mean that he's going to be himself come regular season. It's going to be impossible to say whether Zach Wheeler can ever be Zach Wheeler again until it happens, if it does. And I will say I am rooting for that outcome more than just about anything in the 2026 season.
Let me quickly run through the rest of these items here. Mets first base coach Antoine Richardson is expected to depart the organization after failing to agree to a new contract. Many Mets, including Juan Soto, credited Richardson for improving the team's base running this season. It adds another variable when trying to project Soto's seals for next year. So don't love that. Red Sox director of player development Brian Abraham said recently that adding strength will be a big focus for Christian Campbell this offseason. Lars Nootbaar could miss the start of next season after having surgery to address deformities on both of his heels. Okay, don't hear that one often. The Orioles have named Craig Albernaz as their new manager. He's 42 years old, spent the last 2 years as Stephen Vogt's right-hand man in Cleveland. And it's Halloween later this week, and if you guys have costumes, I fully expect Wednesday night, Thursday morning's podcast, we are in full costume doing the podcast. So,
okay, yeah, I have my costume ready. I'm waiting on a wig, so hopefully that will be delivered in time. But I think I can do that. Yeah,
I haven't worn a Halloween costume in 30 years, probably.
Did he get it?
You're gonna have to.
Ooh, I thought Will Smith just hit a walk-off home run, but it was caught at the wall.
Looks like Frank is about 6 seconds ahead of me.
Oh, sorry, man.
And
I guess
12,
anybody watching live.
Yeah, and about 12 hours behind everybody listening.
All right, let's get back into third base. Let's take a look at the top 12 finishers from this past season. This is according to the Fangraphs Player Rater. This is for Roto categories leagues. I will mention fantasy points per game, a few head-to-head points nuggets as well. Number 1, no surprise, the face of the position, the face of consistency, Jose Ramirez. He was also the top scorer in total head-to-head points leagues and fantasy points per game, 3.8. He's 33 years old, but remains elite. He's also extremely durable, has finished as a top 6 player 4 of the past 5 years. Scott, I guess the only negative you can point to is the fluctuation in counting stats for Jose Ramirez. But in terms of plate discipline, solid batting average, power, speed, everything is there for J-Ran.
The only negative I can point to is that he's 33, and it's not going to continue forever.
Well, we've had no signs of a slowdown.
No, we don't. Yeah. We don't. I'm just saying I wish he was younger, because then I would have nothing to worry about with Jose Ramirez. As it is, given how consistent he is and how much he fills up the stat sheet and that he plays a weak position. I mean, he's the one surefire early round performer. I think there will be another third baseman drafted in the early rounds, one other. But Jose Ramirez is the only one you can just lock in for those early round stats at this entire position. He's my 5th overall player is what I was building up to.
I think if you get him outside of the top 5, great value. I think he's at that point. Is John Q baseball fan ready for Jose Ramirez Hall of Famer? Like, is that like common knowledge at this point? Because like that's happening. Jose Ramirez is a Hall of Famer.
Oh, 100%.
I want to make sure everybody's like, because he's never won an MVP, but he's got like 6 top 5 finishes. Yeah.
I'm sure you can find people online who would argue against it. The very small
you don't have
haul,
to listen to them.
The small haul. He needs to have won 3 World Series and 2 MVPs to get in, kind of guys.
We don't take them seriously.
I am not making that argument, to be clear. I am just saying I'm sure you will find people who would.
The number 2 third baseman and the other name Scott was alluding to as an early round pick for next season, Junior Caminero, breakout season, averaged 3.4 fantasy points per game. That was second at the position. Not even Scott Song could have predicted this. 45 homers. That was the 6th most in baseball, 110 RBI, the 8th most. And his season really flipped in May when he met up with his hitting coach from the Dominican Republic, got a few pointers, and boom, breakout from that point forward. Chris, the only thing that I slightly worry about is this move back to Tropicana Field and the fact that some hitters have struggled there with the batter's eye and just the lighting and everything. Junior Caminero is not some hitter. He obviously is extremely talented, and I realize me having any concern over this can look incredibly foolish a year from now. But it just does add an extra unknown, an extra element that I wish wasn't there.
Yeah, there are known knowns, and then there are unknown unknowns. Those are the things we don't know that we don't know. And in this case, this is like a known unknown. We know that a variable for Junior Caminero is changing. His home park will be different in 2026 than it was in 2025. Does that mean it will impact him negatively? Not necessarily. It's possible it impacts him positively. It probably won't, given what we know about how Steinbrenner played and how Tropicana has played in the past. But like Tropicana's actually, the dimensions are pretty favorable for hitters, especially down the line. Isaac Paredes hit 30 homers at Tropicana Field. It's just a question of, will he have trouble tracking the ball the way we've seen like Willy Adames have trouble in Tampa Bay? Him being the most obvious example. We just don't know. We have he got 15 games, 10 games?
19 games, yeah.
Yeah, there's no evidence that he will suffer from Tropicana. It's just people looking at the home away splits and saying, "Oh, he was better at home." And that's overly
simplistic.
It's putting it all on the batting average too. It was like an equal number of home runs, and that's what you'd expect that small park in Tampa to improve his power production, and it didn't. It was all in the batting average.
I mean, it is a massive difference, by the way, Scott. I feel like you're underselling it. It's 100 points of batting average. It's 200 points of OPS.
But it's
splits from this year.
But that's
why? Just and
like you got to explain
just
why for me to care. You know?
Well, no. But I just want to point out that the 200-point swing in OPS is just batting average, right? Because it's 100 points of OBP and 100 points of slug.
Yeah, sure.
But
so it's just that
I think the park factor explains it completely.
No, I don't think it does. I don't think.
If you look at the park factor from this past season in Steinbrenner Field, it was 10th in overall park factor, 7th in home run factor. From 2022 to 24, Tropicana was 29th in overall park factor.
But his away games weren't at Tropicana.
Yeah,
Field.
You're not comparing it to Tropicana.
So that doesn't matter to me. You're comparing it to all the away stadiums, many of which are better. I'm
not saying he's just going to become his away stats. I totally get that. I'm just saying his home numbers might not be as good because he's not playing in.
But his away stats could be better.
I would guess. I would bet on both. I would bet on him being a little worse at home and a little better on the road next year.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say with Junior Caminero is the batting average is kind of the pivot point for me. Because I think the power is legit. I think he's, you probably shouldn't expect anyone except for Aaron Judge to hit 45 homers in any given season. That's just unfair. Maybe Shohei Ohtani. So he might hit only 38 next season. But I don't really think that would be a down year for Junior Caminero, unless it's accompanied by other things. But I will say the batting average seems like the one place where there's really some meat left on the bone because he makes a decent amount of contact. 19.1% strikeout rate is well below average. Hits the ball really hard, 92.4 mile per hour average exit velocity. It's just, he's not quite optimized yet. I've made the comp to Marcell Ozuna a lot, and I feel like that's just a very similar type of hitter to Junior Caminero. A lot of power, pretty good approach at the plate. There was some inconsistency throughout Marcell Ozuna's peak, and a lot of it was batting average related because he hits a lot of balls to the power alleys. He doesn't hit a ton of line drives. He'll occasionally get into ruts where he hits a lot of pop-ups, and we've seen that from Junior Caminero throughout his career. But he's also so young.
It's too early to say, oh yeah, he's going to have a career like, because he's 21 and he just hit 45 home runs. It's like, we have no idea what the future holds from Caminero. We just know he was an uber prospect who hits the ball incredibly hard. And as a 21-year-old in his first full major league season, he had, he was it one of the all-time great third base seasons? That's probably overstating it, but it was certainly one of the best this season.
It was one of the best seasons ever by a player that was in their age 21 season.
Yes.
Statistically, it was.
Because where did he rank in terms of home runs for that age group? It was,
I think it was like second or third most.
Yeah,
I think it was just Frank Robinson had more.
So I also want to bring up this home away thing because I think it's going to come up a lot in the analysis. There are these machines called traject machines. Mm-hmm. That's a proper name, TRAJEKT, where a batter can simulate at bats against opposing pitchers, and it gives them the look of the opposing pitcher. Like they can see the arm angle. It really simulates specifically the pitcher they're facing that day. Mm-hmm. And that's only available to the home team. Now, I don't even know if it was available at this minor league ballpark the Rays were playing in. I wasn't able to find that. I know there are like 5 stadiums where it's not available. It'll soon be available to home hitters in all of them. But I think we're already seeing starker contrast between home and away stats, both for pitchers and for hitters. They both end up doing better at home because when the pitcher's at home, the away team doesn't have access to that machine. And obviously when the hitter's at home, they do have access to that machine.
Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, I don't want to come on here and be the Junior Caminero hater. I don't necessarily believe that he's going to take a huge step back. I just want to present that. And I'm sure, like you said, Scott, a lot of people are going to be asking about that exact thing a lot this offseason for Junior Caminero. Let's take our final break. When we return, we will get back into the rest of third base right after this.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in. We are recapping the top 12 third basemen from this past season. Number 3 was Eugenio Suarez, who averaged 3.1 fantasy points per game. That was tied for 5th at the position. He takes a little hit in that format because of strikeouts. Massive power season, 49 homers, 118 RBI. The 49 homers tied a career high, 118 RBI was a career high for Suarez. He has finished as a top 40 overall player 2 years in a row. He's a free agent this offseason. We need to get him out of Seattle. It just, any stop that he's been there, it has not worked very well. Chris, he's also 34 years old. Mm-hmm. He strikes out quite a bit. He's had big ups and downs in his career as well. So I think he's a bit of a tough evaluation for next season. Let's see where he winds up, I guess.
Yeah, right now he's my number 6 third baseman. Maybe I'm overrating Alex Bregman, but I feel like Alex Bregman's a little more projectable than Suarez. Suarez is a very high variance pick who I think will and should get downgraded because of all the risk factors you mentioned. The just seemingly volatile skill set, the fact that he might return to Seattle and how much that has held him back. I think it's a sub 700 OPS in his career in Seattle at T-Mobile Park. And then the age, as good as he's been the past year and 2/3, it was pretty bad before that, and the bottom could fall out more so than I think any other player at this position, certainly at this range. But he also might hit 40 homers again, and he's going to drive in a bunch of runs if he does that. And there is a non-zero chance that he just ends up getting discounted too much and ends up being a great pick in 2026. How I feel about Suarez will depend first on where he signs and then where everybody else ranks him. If he re-signs in Seattle, I don't think he's a top 12 third baseman.
I think it was all Seattle. Because he hit in his home games after rejoining the Mariners, he hit 106 with a 469 OPS. And in his away games after joining the Mariners, he hit 280 with a 921 OPS.
It's basically the same guy, yeah.
Yeah. So
he just can't hit in Seattle.
He can't hit in Seattle, and we already had evidence of that. It was even starker after this trade this year. He will. He's 34 heading into next year, so it's possible he fades some because of that. But I don't think we should treat his late season performance with the Mariners as evidence of that.
No. I think if he re-signs in Seattle, he's probably my number 14 third baseman.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I think I would rather take the chance on Royce Lewis than Eugenio Suarez if he's back in Seattle. It's so obvious. Yeah,
and we have a lot of numbers to back that up as well for Eugenio Suarez. The number 4 third baseman was Manny Machado, 3.1 fantasy points per game, which was tied for 5th at the position. One of the most consistent contributors. Pretty similar seasons 2 years in a row, right at a 275 batting average, 27 to 29 homers, 95 to 105 RBI, 11 to 14 steals. Scott, there are a few warning signs, I think, for most hitters at 33 years old. Zone contact and whiff rate, both the worst of his career. Still good by, league standards, but he also slumped the final 2 months of the season. I still think there's a couple of really good seasons left in here for Manny Machado, but just wanted to point out there are a few warning signs there.
I think the way to treat Manny Machado's 2025, because yes, he did stumble to the finish line. He was looking poised to have like a mid to high 800s OPS before that, and that would have been great. But he stumbled to the finish line. I don't think it's wise to treat that as evidence of a decline because he was hitting the ball harder. He was striking out less. There were no weird changes to his launch angle in terms of more ground balls, more flat. Like everything looked great under the hood during those final 2 months. I think it's just, he finished with, instead of that mid to 800, high 800s OPS, he finished with a 795 OPS as compared to 797 the year before and 782 the year before. I think this is how the regression played out this particular year, and we have now a 3-year trend of Manny Machado being the exact same guy, a guy high 700s OPS, closer to 25 homers than 30 probably, with a decent batting average. So, that's at this position, the state of it now, that's still very good, but I don't think anybody's going to be persuaded to draft Machado in round 2 anymore.
Yeah, he has still finished as a top 30 overall player 2 years in a row. Feels more like a kind of deeper league, or if you play in a 12-team roto league or deeper, just kind of a stable pick in the 3rd or 4th round, wherever
I think 4th,
Machado winds up for next season.
My very early draft of my top 300 has him 37th, so the first pick of round 4.
All right, the number 5 third baseman was Rafael Devers, who no longer has third base eligibility. Chris and I also spoke extensively about him on our first base recap. So we will move on to number 6, who was Jazz Chisholm. He does have third base eligibility for next season, but we already spoke about him pretty extensively on
I do want to
base preview as well.
Say, Scott said Caminero was the other early rounder. I think Jazz Chisholm's going to be in there.
Jazz Chisholm is too.
I think he's going to be I think he's going to be a second round pick this year.
Yeah.
In roto leagues, not in points.
Yeah, I have him at the end of round 2. I was thinking of him more as a second baseman, but he is eligible third, and he might be drafted to play third since third base isn't great either. Second base is even weaker. He should probably be drafted as a second baseman.
But getting those steals from a third baseman can be very, very helpful.
Yep.
I mean,
he has the most useful eligibility probably of any hitter in the player pool for 2026, eligible at both of those positions.
Yeah, second and third there for Jazz Chisholm. The number 7 third baseman was Maikel Garcia, who had himself a nice little breakout campaign, 3 fantasy points per game. That was tied for 9th at third base. Improved drastically as a hitter, 286 batting average, 16 homers, 23 steals, and 800 OPS. Their strong plate discipline. He hits the ball hard. He's turning 26 years old in early March. Chris, I think there could even be another step forward for Maikel Garcia. Just when you look at his skill set and kind of everything combined, I think he's a pretty fun player.
I think he's really good. I'm not expecting another step forward. I think he kind of got everything he can out of his approach in 2025. He started elevating the ball a lot more, which did lead to some more pop-ups, but also led to more line drives, led to more useful power. 16% pulled air rate was much higher than the previous couple of seasons. I think what we saw from Maikel Garcia last year, I don't want to say it's the best case scenario because I could see 20 homers. I could see 20 homers and 30 steals for Maikel Garcia.
Maybe the steals bounce back a little bit, yeah.
But I don't expect like a sea change in his production. I think it's going to be a good batting average, useful power and speed, not dominant anywhere, but just very good all around.
Yeah, when I was looking through his numbers earlier today, it kind of felt like Nico Horner just with more power. Like Nico Horner with 15 homers instead of...
Yeah, trading like 15 steals for 8 homers or whatever.
Yeah, honestly, it's only like a 5 steal difference. Nico Horner's been right around 30, and Maikel Garcia just had 23, so it's not that big of a difference. And, I think he stole 30-plus the year prior. So
yeah, he stole 37 in 2024, did Maikel Garcia. So they might have... I don't know that I'd put the projected steals total. I don't know that it would be that different for Horner and Garcia.
That's fair.
Yeah. The number 8 third baseman, and this is where things take a little bit of a step back here, was Lenyn Sosa. He actually only has first base and second base eligibility for next season, but we didn't talk about him on any of those podcasts, so let's do it now. And just to highlight the drop-off in production, according to the Fangraphs player rater, Maikel Garcia provided $17.50 of value in a 12-team category league. Lenyn Sosa was just $7.4. So a $10 drop in return on investment this past season from Garcia to Lenyn Sosa, the 7 to 8 third baseman. Sosa also averages 2.3 fantasy points per game. He barely walks. Finally got the chance to play. He produced 264 batting average, 22 homers. He hits the ball decently hard, expected stats like him. This kind of feels like a boomer bust player for me because I can see a scenario where Sosa plays every day, hits like 280 with 25 homers. I can also see a case where he just chases so many pitches, slumps his way out of a job, and then he's just not playing anymore. So,
yeah, it's the low OBP guys, particularly when they're hit. Their batting skills apart from that are moderate. It's not like they have a standout tool apart from that. They always have very little margin for error. It helps that he's on a bad team. And so I think that's continued to get Lenyn Sosa the chances that allowed him to have this breakout season, because I'm not sure he would have gotten so many chances in a different organization. I think he's a fine fallback option at this position, but there isn't a lot of upside. He can probably scratch out 20 to 25 homers if he stays healthy, and the batting average might be decent. The run and RBI production is going to be pretty bad. He's obviously only the 8th. You said he finished 8th. He obviously only finished that high because Austin Riley missed so much time, and Isaac Paredes missed so much time, and Alex Bregman and Jordan Westberg and Max Muncy and Royce Lewis. Like obviously he kind of entered that range by default, and he's not actually that good, but he's not bad. I'll give Lenyn Sosa that much.
If you thought that was a little bit weird, wait for numbers 9 and 10 because next up we have Ernie Clement and Zach McKinstry. Those were the number 9 and 10 third
Clement.
Yeah, they have triple eligibility for next year. Clement has third, short, and second. McKinstry has third shortstop and outfield. They were both under 2.5 fantasy points per game. They both feel like better real-life players. I mean, Clement in particular, he makes a lot of contact. He plays good defense.
Having an awesome playoffs.
He's hitting over 400 in the playoffs. That's cool. McKinstry has a little bit more juice. You know, there's less batting average, a little bit more power and speed. But I think outside of deeper draft and hold leagues, like a draft champions or a best ball league, these guys probably don't have much value for fantasy.
I rank Clement as my 35th third baseman for next year.
Okay.
I mean, 9 homers, 6 steals, 50 RBI. This is your number 9 third baseman 2025. What have you done?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a problem.
McKinstry was pretty terrible down the stretch as well. He had 213 in the second half. I know he was an all-star, but I have very little interest in either of these guys outside of a 15-team context for 2026.
Yeah, McKinstry did have an IL stint with a stiff neck in late June and early July, so perhaps that affected his second half, but it was a stark contrast between those two halves.
He's 30. He had never been a good hitter at the major league level before last season. I think we can just say he had a good 3 months.
I'm totally fine with that. Yeah. The number 11 third baseman, and he would have ranked higher if he didn't miss time, it was Alex Bregman, who is still a standout in head-to-head points leagues as well. 3.1 fantasy points per game. Feels like a tale of 2 seasons, right? He hurt his quad like 2 months into the season, and he wasn't really the same after that. So 51 games pre-injury, Bregman hit 299 with 11 homers and a 938 OPS. 63 games after the injury, he hit 250, 7 homers, 724 OPS. And mentioned that he was playing through injury, for parts of the second half as well. So it sounded like he's going to opt out. I still think just for fantasy, the best case scenario I can see is him going back to Boston, right? Or Houston, but that's not
Houston. I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, they got Carlos Correa last year. Maybe they bring the whole band back together.
They already don't have a place for Isaac Paredes to play. So
if we buy the report that Bregman is opting out, and we're just assuming he's a free agent. Yeah. Where his ultimate destination matters more to his fantasy value even than Eugenio Suarez's does, because it's really just in Suarez's case, stay out of Seattle. Yeah. But Bregman, there are a lot of venues he could land in that would be terrible for him because he's always had the benefit of a short porch in left field.
And the 2 most rumored teams besides the Red Sox last offseason would, I think, be pretty horrible landing spots. It was the Cubs and Tigers.
Yeah,
those are both really tough, especially Wrigley. We saw with Isaac Paredes how much that impacted him. That would be a really, really bad landing spot for Alex Bregman. So I think Alex Bregman's skill set is stable enough that I probably wouldn't drop him quite as far as I would a Eugenio Suarez if he landed in the wrong spot. But
there are a lot more wrong spots.
There are more wrong spots,
yeah.
Yes. I would prefer a return to Boston. I don't actually know how likely that is.
Yeah.
They seem to like him a lot, though. Alex Cora loved him, and Bregman really took the young players under
a lot to like there. It's just they got a lot of playing time questions to resolve.
Don't they need another adult in the room, though, don't you think? It feels like they're such a young team right now. I'm just making this case because I want Bregman to be there for fantasy.
It
feels like
here's the thing
sense too, but
they were willing to pay if Bregman didn't opt out. They were going to pay, and he hasn't opted out yet. Technically, they're going to pay him $42 million in 2026. I presume a long-term deal would mean him making less than $42 million.
I would guess it's more like 30 million AAV.
Yeah. So like if they already had him penciled in for $42 million, I think they can find a way to keep him because it'll be less the average annual value. And they did seem to like him. So I feel pretty confident. Maybe confident is the right word, but I feel optimistic Bregman will stay with the Red Sox. And that said, I don't know, like, what is Bregman with the Red Sox even? Chris, sounds like you're ranking him higher than I am.
Yeah.
Because I think if we presume Bregman stays with the Red Sox, if we presume Isaac Paredes stays with the Astros, which he's under contract to do, but it gets complicated with the Carlos Correa situation. I think they're basically the same. Bregman with the Red Sox, Paredes with the Astros.
I think Bregman's a much better bet for batting average.
He's a slightly better bet for batting average. I don't think much better. He ended up hitting
273.
Yeah, and Paredes hit 260 something, right?
I do think with Bregman, we have to point out how stark the difference is between his pre and post injury performance and
254 for Paredes is more different than I thought.
He did not go on a rehab assignment. Remember, when he came back from that quad injury, he just came back, and like that is fine, but that's really difficult to do. There's a reason they go on rehab assignments, and I think it's likely he was never 100% healthy in the second half of the season. I think his timing was all messed up. I think,
but the history doesn't favor first half Bregman with batting average. I mean, he ended up hitting 273 last year. He hit 260 the year before.
Yeah, I'm not saying 290
the year before, 259 the year before.
I think
it wasn't in Boston, but
I think in Fenway, where the primary value of Fenway as a hitter's park is it boosts batting average. Like obviously the short left field can help some specific hitters, including Alex Bregman, but Fenway, outside of Coors Field and maybe Sacramento, Fenway has been the biggest BABIP inflating ballpark in baseball forever. And so I do think I would expect 275 from Bregman. I'd probably expect 250 from Paredes. And I think that's the big difference. Maybe it's, you expect 5 more home runs from Paredes, but even that I think is going to be pretty close. So I would just, and then Bregman's going to score a lot more runs because that's never a strong suit for Paredes. I think the RBI will be pretty close. So I think on the whole, Bregman's just a much safer bet if he's back in Fenway. If he's in Chicago,
no,
he might hit 19 homers with a 260 batting average and be a pretty fringy fantasy option.
The number 12 and final third baseman we will talk about here is Matt Chapman. He averaged 2.8 fantasy points per game. He actually dealt with a hand injury in mid-June, which bothered him all season. He was solid, though. Hit 231, 21 homers, 9 steals. I feel like if he's healthy next year, he can get somewhat close to 2024 form. His expected batting average said that he deserved better. He also walks a ton, which should help him in points leagues as well. So assuming health, I think Matt Chapman could also be a viable, usable starting third baseman.
Yeah, I think he's very solid. I think he followed up his big 2024 nicely. The numbers were a little less, but they weren't. They very easily could have been the same. He was on pace for the same, and then there was that late injury.
And he was getting hot too. He got hot in May and June, suffered the hand injury in June, and then it basically kind of hurt him the rest of the way.
And a lot of the underlying numbers from 2024 looked the same in 2025. He kept the strikeout rate down, and he was solid even as it was, even with the little step back he took. So another third baseman who's getting old. He's going to be 33 early next year. So there's definitely downside risk just because of that with Chapman, but he's 10th for me next year because I think he feels pretty safe once you're clearly outside of the studs at the position.
That seems to be the magic number, and I'm not sure that we want 33 years old to be the magic number at any position, but I feel like we've said that for a lot of third basemen here today. Let's take an early look at rankings for next season. We'll also have an FBT Express episode that comes out on Wednesday morning, looking at these rankings as well. For Scott, his top 6 third basemen, we have Jose Ramirez, Caminero, Jazz Chisholm, Manny Machado, Austin Riley, and Eugenio Suarez. For Chris, it's J-Ram, Jazz, Caminero, Machado, so same top 4. Then we get Bregman, so a little bit higher there, and then Suarez, the same number 6 player. Scott has Riley a little bit higher. Chris has him at 7. We spoke about Riley a little bit earlier on. I don't know that there's much more to add. His season ended with core surgery to fix a sports hernia in August. Something I want to look at more is not just assuming that every player who has surgery is just going to come back and be the same player the next year or bounce back to full health. So he's a name to watch in spring training, but assuming we don't hear anything crazy, I think the expectation is that Austin Riley should bounce back at least to some level for next season. Taking a look at Scott's 7 through 12 at third base, we have Maikel Garcia, Alex Bregman, Isaac Paredes, Matt Chapman, Jordan Westburg, and Max Muncy of the Dodgers, of course. And then for Chris, we have Austin Riley, Jordan Westburg, Maikel Garcia, Isaac Paredes, Noelvi Marte, and Max Muncy. So Scott, you have Garcia, Paredes, and Chapman a little bit higher. Chris, you have Westberg and Marte a little bit higher here. We have talked a little bit about Paredes, and Scott, he was basically working out the way we thought he was. 20 homers in 102 games. That is a 31 home run pace over a full season, but he dealt with a hamstring injury that caused him to miss a large chunk of the year.
Yeah, he was basically giving the Astros exactly what they lost in Alex Bregman. Because
probably
Bregman,
not the same defense, but yeah, offensively.
Yeah. So I think we have all the proof we need. He's going to be a starting caliber third baseman for fantasy and then some in Houston. But I brought it up a minute ago. When he was hurt, they traded for Carlos Correa, and Carlos Correa has to play someplace. It's not going to be shortstop with Jeremy Pena there. Second base, okay, they don't entirely trust Altuve there defensively, and that's why they had him dabble in left field next year. Paredes has some experience playing second. Presumably Correa could play it if they wanted him to, but it needs to be sorted out. And it's possible a trade happens to remove one of those guys from the equation.
Can they get someone to take Walker?
No, I think the most likely case, and Astros fans, if you hear this, you might think I'm crazy, selling high on Jeremy Pena. I think they can get a really good return.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That would screw up their defense, I think.
I think Correa's
be a
probably
huge
still
hit.
okay at shortstop.
I don't think it's going to happen because that's kind of my default take on most trade speculation, but I have seen it speculated beyond just Frank that they could shop Jeremy Pena this offseason. But no, Chris makes a good point. If they could trade Christian Walker, then Paredes could play first base, and that would solve it. So I think it's going to get figured out. I think Paredes is going to remain with the Astros and play full time, but it's not a guarantee as we sit here in late October before the offseason's really started. Let's see. Anyone else we need to talk about here? So
I would say I want to point out Noelvi Marte.
Yeah, because I've been the Noelvi Marte defender all along. And
I think the big distinction there is I did my rankings right at the end of the season, and you did yours a couple of weeks later, I think. And so you probably had a little more. Oh, third base was the first position you did?
Third base was the first position I did, and it was with about 2 weeks to go.
I would guess the biggest distinction is I just didn't realize how bad Noelvi Marte finished the season. 501 OPS in the month of September was really, really bad, with the worst strikeout rate of his season, 32 strikeouts and 98 plate appearances, only 2 homers. He was having a really, really nice season before that. Yeah. And so I believe in the talent for the most part. I think the 748 OPS or whatever it was, I think that's probably closer to the floor than the ceiling. But looking at it now, in the light of day, I think you'd rather. I mean, it's 2 a.m. I think I think I'd rather have Max Muncy than Marte at least. Then you get to like Chapman, where he's useful. He also has obvious limitations
it's
that
kind
you
of
have to build around.
Upside.
It's just a situation for me, like in any league size, except maybe the tiniest 10-team leagues or whatever. Whoever has Matt Chapman is starting Matt Chapman. Like it's such a at a position where you could really get boxed out completely. He feels like a surefire starter in fantasy, and so I don't want to gamble too much on the upside of a Marte. And I think there's plenty of upside there with Noelvi Marte. I get what you're saying. Like for a while there, I thought I was going to rank Noelvi Marte very aggressively. I think in August I wrote one of my bold predictions for 2026 was that he was going to have a better head-to-head point season than Ellie De La Cruz. And obviously I'm not willing to say that now because Marte collapsed so hard in September, which doesn't mean September is true Noelvi Marte and he was exposed or anything. It just means it still needs to be sorted out, but there's a ton of upside here. It's still very young and could make good on it. There's power, there's speed. In theory, he doesn't strike out much, but again, that exploded in September. So I think you need to draft Noelvi Marte more cautiously. You have him 11th, and it sounds like you may move him down. I have him 13th. So it's just a little more caution there. I want to point out that I had Max Muncy 8th I was bullish looking at his numbers from April 30th on, which is when he started wearing glasses. But then I looked at the playing time, and I don't know why I overlooked this in my initial rankings.
He sits pretty regular.
How much he sits against left-handers, and it was especially true down the stretch. And knowing the Dodgers, I like that you put on the glasses there, Frank, when we started talking about.
Yeah, 564 OPS against lefties too.
Imagine all we had to do was put glasses on and we would perform better at our jobs. That would be great.
So he's already in. Just the fact Muncy's in his mid-30s is made 8 feel a little aggressive, and when you consider he has the clearest playing time limitations of any third baseman in the top 12, I think he slots in there at 12th for me, even with the optimism over his performance that I have.
And I could see having a build where I end up passing on Max Muncy and try to get more of a full-time player and hope that I think Royce Lewis is probably the most likely guy.
If
Just
you're going
hope that
to
there's
take
that second half bounce
yeah,
was representative of what he still can be.
yeah, that was impressive too. I haven't, kind of dove into Royce Lewis yet. I know he stole a ton of bases down the stretch, so that's a pretty impressive part of his game. I was going to say, if you want a power hitting platoon third baseman that you could probably, I presume, get later, Addison Barger. I think there's still some excitement there for him versus like a Max Muncy, depending on the price difference between the two. Muncy still feels like a perfect player to target in a points league because, his on base percentage, he walks a lot still, and he's almost certainly going to miss time. Obviously, you want volume, you want guys that play every day, but when he misses time, the replacement value on the waiver wire is going to be so much better in a shallower league like that. So I still like Muncy in a points league quite a bit.
Yep, I got him
great
a few
daily
spots
player.
higher.
Yeah.
Daily league player too. He's great.
Yeah. Chris, I did want to wrap up by asking you about Jordan Westberg, who you rank a little bit higher here than Scott. He went on the IL twice this season, once with a hamstring injury, once with a sprained ankle. He was limited to just 85 games, but he was on a 32 home run pace over a full season. We just needed to see him stay on the field. Obviously, I don't think you can expect him to play every single game because he hasn't done that yet. But, if he somehow does, I think there's legit 30 home run pop here from Jordan Westberg.
Yeah, I think if he stays healthy, expectations shouldn't be that different for him versus Bregman or Isaac Paredes. And Westberg is young enough that if you want to just avoid all the old guys in the second half of the top 12 at this position and just go with the one guy who's 26 years old, I think that's perfectly reasonable. The lack of stolen bases was frustrating. I know he dealt with a lot of injuries. He was still 89th percentile in sprint speed, so I still think there is...
That's 2 years in a row where he hasn't really...
I'm not expecting... I think there's 10 steal upside there. Okay. Yeah, he stole 6. He
might not be a 0, but yeah.
I think the dreams of him being a big contributor are probably gone, but I think 10 as a ceiling could work out with 30 homers and a useful batting average. I think that Orioles lineup should be a lot better. So I think it just comes down to I'd rather I have him ahead of Maikel Garcia. I think I'd rather have Garcia. So looking at that one, that's a change I'll be making. These are all evolving throughout the offseason as we do drafts and all that stuff and have these conversations. But Westberg versus Paredes, I'll just take Westberg, I think. There are enough questions about where Paredes is going to be playing and whether playing time is going to be a concern that betting on the younger guy just feels like a decent idea here.
Can I mention real quick, in case you missed the second base show, Maikel Garcia and Westberg are only eligible at third base for 2026. So that helps. I mean, it doesn't help at second base, but it helps at third base because you don't have to worry about the depth depleting even faster because of these multi-eligible guys. The only multi-eligible guy in either of our top 12s is Jazz Chisholm. So, think of it more like a top 11, maybe. And then you can add the one player who Chris and I don't have in common in our top 12, Chapman to Chris's. as the 12th guy, and Noel V. Marte to mine as the 12th guy.
Yeah, Scott, I think maybe you should just, rethink adding someone like Ernie Clement to your top 12. And we get another
Not gonna happen.
Another multi-position player there in Ernie Clement. All right, here we are. We just did an hour podcast. Game 3 of the World Series is still going on.
It's just watching this game. Just watching this game, just looking like the Dodgers guys come up, and then the Blue Jays guys come up. And the Blue Jays, for context, do not have Bo Bichette in the lineup right now. He was replaced by a pinch runner, I think.
They don't have Alejandro Kirk either.
They don't have Alejandro Kirk. He was replaced by a pinch runner. George Springer looked like he injured his oblique earlier, or maybe his back.
And Ohtani gets intentionally walked every time he's up.
Yeah, so I guess the Dodgers don't have Ohtani, but pretty big talent discrepancy between these two teams right now. It feels like the Blue Jays are just keeping their head above water, and they need something to go right at this point. But hey, it's 16 innings in, and they haven't lost yet. So
the Blue Jays have had so many chances. I haven't seen the last 4 innings, but they had so many chances, and Tommy Edman kept making plays.
I mean, Tommy Edman had as good of a game defensively as you could possibly have for a guy whose error directly led to a 3-run home run.
That is
talk about making up for your mistakes. Tommy Edman has made some absolutely bananas plays in this game. It's been this is an all-timer. This is one of the best baseball games I've ever seen, I think.
It is a fantastic baseball game, and the Manfred man, the automatic runner on second base, should never be part of the playoffs.
No, not in the playoffs, absolutely.
But this is just a clear reminder of why we have the Manfred man in the regular season, because
I almost said the same thing.
If we ever had 16-inning games in the regular season again, I would lose my mind. So please.
Nobody likes that rule more than beat writers. Nobody.
No. You know who likes
the podcast.
You know who likes that rule more than beat writers? The players in the games.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again later this week. Bye-bye.